it's not 7. I got 7 of them. I got 7 too. Okay, thank you for waiting. I'd like to get started. Welcome to the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District regular board meeting. Today is Wednesday, May 17th. The time is 7 p.m. and we are here at the Giddings Council Chambers. So we do have a quorum. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. So welcome everyone. I do see we have County Judge Malinak. I saw her before. Welcome. Any public comments? Anyone has signed up? No. This is your opportunity if anyone would like to speak.
Sir?
Yes, sir. Please.
I'd just like to speak.
Come on up.
Just for a minute.
Oh, that's right.
As y'all know, I'm the newly elected county judge, and I'm just getting my feet on the ground. I've been to several of your meetings here. I've studied some of the water issues, and I just want to thank y'all for the job that you do. We have to have good people representing our counties in this water matter because it is such an important issue. And I just want to simply say thank y'all. Thank y'all for what you do.
Thank you, Judge. Oh, I also would like to recognize Bastrop County Commissioner, who escaped me, Commissioner Glass. Welcome. Welcome, Commissioner Glass.
Did over what the judge said. I do appreciate each and every one of you for what you do. Kind of one of the thankless jobs.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comments? All right, with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, the consent agenda. There is one item I'd like to pull out, and that is the meeting minutes of the rules. The adjourn time needs to be updated. What
7:12.
the 7:12 should be the adjourn time. So I'd like that is the one. So we'll keep that separate. I'll deal with that next. So first, the consent agenda. Other than that, anybody else would like to pull anything out of the consent agenda?
Mr. President, as we discussed, there was one invoice that was provided to y'all late. It came in this morning, so we didn't get it in your packet, but you've been given a copy of that. It falls into the invoice greater than 5,000. So we can either, if you feel the need to discuss it, we can pull that, or we can just approve that as part of the consent agenda if you're comfortable with it.
And that was for over 3 months?
That was a couple of months worth of bills, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's the page titled LRE Water.
That would also have very busy months as well,
Yeah.
so.
Yes, yes.
Okay, we good? All right, with that, I guess I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda, except for the minutes.
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All righty, then that motion passes. So next, the meeting minutes of the rules workshop. We just need to correct or update the adjourn time to 7:11. 7:12?
Yes.
7:12. So with that, I'd like to entertain a
I'll make a
motion.
motion to approve the minutes with the amendment, adjournment at 7:12.
Second.
And a second, hearing second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. So that's moving on to agenda item number 4 then, the regular agenda. Any announcements? Okay.
I have an announcement. We're fortunate to have some really excellent consultants who work for us. But recently, our guy, Greg Ellis, has sort of risen above and beyond the call of duty on our behalf at the legislature, and he's done some really good work on Senate Bill 1080, and he's been very persuasive on our behalf, and I've just been really impressed with his gravitas. So I just wanted to mention that to anybody who's not aware of the work he's been doing on our behalf for our a bill involving our mitigation efforts. So,
Thank you.
Does that look like it's going to pass in the Senate, possibly, hopefully?
Yeah, I'll have an update
Yeah.
in item F. So I'll update the status in F.
thank you.
Thanks. Any other announcements? All right, with that, we'll move on to regular agenda 4B. Discussion, consideration, and possible action on the Giddings office non-construction related expenses. I'd like to refer everyone to the Financial Committee report. That has the latest, the non-construction related expenses. So the Financial Committee met, and with Director Phil Cook was there as well with the Financial Committee, and we itemized many of the items that we thought were still left that were non-construction related. Most of the items were well below the $5,000 limit, that authorization that the general manager has. There were only 2 exceptions that we thought would be above $5,000. One was for outside office signs, an outdoor backlit office sign for the new office. That could easily run well above $5,000, and also audio video equipment for Zoom meetings and conference meetings at the new office. There's going to be a meeting room, so we want to equip that with television monitors and microphones and speakers, etc. So we thought that service would possibly also run over $5,000, and both of those would have to go up for bidding and get bids. So those 2 items, the general manager would have to come before the board to get approval for those 2 items. The other items, cleaning up the outside of the building, some appliances, faucets and kitchen items, those are all items that the general manager can approve, and he's authorized as needed to purchase those. Any questions? So when those 2 items come up that are above $5,000, the general manager, probably by next month or so, we'll probably see some of those items being purchased. Any further discussion or questions on that item?
Are you going to consult with who decides on the AV equipment?
I've got one company that's waiting for me to send over the schematics of the building to put together a plan for us. I have another company that I'm reaching out to, strangely enough, the people we get our copiers from. Apparently the copiers are sidelined. They actually do AV installation.
Okay.
So I'm going to get those 2, try and find a 3rd company if I can, and this is outside my wheelhouse, so
Yeah.
get them to give us some estimates of what it would cost and what the best way to equip that room would be.
Okay. Thank you.
And realistically, that'll probably be one of the last things that we do. We can be in the office and have everything functional before we get those TVs or get that electronics put in. Because what I don't want is to have it either sitting in a construction site or sitting in our offices in Smithville. So I'd rather do that when we're ready to make that transition.
Thank you, Jen.
Now, the estimated totals of all the non-construction related expenses is somewhere in the vicinity of $31,000. And that's a rough, very, very rough estimate for all the non-construction related expenses. Any other discussion on that point, on this item? All right, with that, we'll move on to item 4C. The auditor's presentation of the district's 2022 financial audit and discussion, consideration, and possible action related to the audit. Sir. Yes. Hello.
Good evening. Pleasure to join you again. My name is Robert Cotillia. I'm with Singleton Clark and Company, the district's independent auditor. everyone should have a copy of the bound audit in front of them. In years past, I've opened it up and flipped pages. I've moved past that more or less in the last year or so. The conversation more or less remains the same. And so only if you have a question, then we need to open it up when we get into it. But we certainly, if you've got a question and need to, we can do that. I'll try to keep my discussion brief. We try to focus on things that are relevant and significant to the audit itself. And so absent a request to discuss something specifically, we usually start with kind of the big three. The big three being the type of opinion that was issued for the year and what it means. The second item would be, were there observations or conclusions relative to the audit? So did we have findings? Did we have recommendations? Did we have audit adjustments? I group those together and then use them to kind of speak to how we got to our opinion. And then the last thing is we look at kind of a calculated reserves idea relative to your ending equity. So I'll start with the opinion. The opinion is a letter at the front of the report. For us as the auditor, it could be considered the most important part of this report. An entity can certainly construct financials and create other information relative to its function. But as your independent auditor, we look at and examine the evidence behind and then speak to, through the opinion, our belief in, is it fairly stated in all material respects and presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles? Presented it as it should be. So you have an independent party that's looking at that and then giving that opinion. The opinion has a technical title or term. It's unmodified. That means that the standard format of the letter has not been modified in any way, so there are no exceptions, no but-fors, no discussions of problems. The lay term is clean, so you often hear you've got a clean opinion, they were given a clean opinion, so unmodified opinion is clean. It's what you do want to receive. In my career, it's been a rare occurrence to issue anything other than a clean opinion. And so that kind of begs the question as to what does a clean opinion mean? The answer to that is in kind of the second element of this discussion. Did we have findings? Did we have recommendations? Did we have an egregious amount of adjustments? Certainly you can get to a clean opinion, but how did you get to it? So findings that occur in two types. You can have a compliance finding, you can have control finding. They differ in severity or significance. As far as recommendations, they're generally made in relation to a perceived inadequacy related to your controls or a lack of adherence by management to the controls and procedures set by the governing body. And the last thing would be the number of audit adjustments. So how many adjustments did we have to make to get to fairly stated in all material respects and presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles? So for the year under audit, we did not have any findings, nor was there one last year. I don't think that we've had a finding, at least not in the last 5 years or so, related to management comments. Last year we did not have any. They do occur and then stop and potentially recur. That's not something year over year that you're going to have. Things change, things that you're doing change. So we did have two. There were two recommendations that were made relative to the audit. They are in the letter in the back flap. So one of them was in relation to the ACH procedures. I don't know that the district has made payments by ACH or EFT frequently in the past. It's an area that for us as auditors that we're very concerned with, in that if you can send large amounts of cash to another party without having two people involved in that process, you're eliminating or creating a situation where it doesn't take collusion to perpetrate a fraud, a theft. And so our recommendation is that you try to modify that process whereby it takes two, basically an initiator and an approver.
Is that, excuse me, but is that done through our banking, through our bank?
Yes.
So we go to our bank and we tell them, hey, you need two signatures to do wire transfers.
Well, it would be how the interface works electronically. You know, if you're going to set up, put it on a routing number and an account number to basically send cash to another party, and that you've got an initiator and then they've got to basically ask someone else for permission. So it would be Peggy initiates it, and then Jim would approve it, essentially.
Okay, so we need to go to the bank
Yes.
to change that.
Would you rather us get a cashier's check signed by two people?
Certainly. It hasn't been something that's been done frequently in the past, and so I don't think that's the reason why we haven't had comment in relation to it. I think it did occur this past year relative to the
Purchase of real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other item that we made a recommendation in relation to was the budget. You're supposed to present amendments relative to the budget as of the last day of the fiscal year, not after. That speaks to, an adherence to and a value in making, having appropriations. And so I don't know that we've had an issue with the budget in the past, but this year there were amendments that were brought to you that occurred after the fiscal year.
Yeah, most years, typically there's some amendment.
Right.
But I think this year we did it in January, right? So we just should have done it a little earlier, a few weeks earlier. Okay,
Yeah,
Yep.
as of the last day of the fiscal year.
right.
So relative to adjustments, you had 5 for the year. That's what you've had typically over the last several. I don't think it's a significant amount in context. I don't have a problem with it. I'd like to see you maybe have 2 or 3, but 5 is not 10, it's not 15, it's not 20, so I don't have a problem with it. And so if we bundle up, no findings, 2 recommendations, 5 adjustments, I think you got to a clean opinion. And so that's the question as far as, you can get to a clean opinion, but did we get to it well? I think you did. I don't have a problem with it. The last item that I generally speak with you about, and you are an anomaly to a certain extent, in that I speak to all of my governmental entities related to this, and we normally talk about it in terms of months. And so we take the total expenses or expenditures for the period, divide by 12, come up with an average monthly amount, and then figure out how much you have in your ending equity balance. With you, it's years. So last year when I was here, I think we had 4.8 years worth of expenses in your ending unrestricted debt position. Meaning that you could exist for 5 years without collecting another dollar of revenues if you continued to exist at the current level of expenses you had in the previous year. It dipped down a hair. Your expenses year over year went from about $800,000 to $1 million. You have property purchase, and so it's 4. But if we're generally recommending between 3 and 6 months and you have 48, you're well beyond that and have a very healthy equity position. So you shouldn't have any problems functioning. Just like to thank you for allowing us to serve as your auditor. Thank you for all your help in conducting the audit. So in summary, clean opinion, gotten to well, 2 recommendations, 5 adjustments of the equity position. Does anyone have any questions related to the audit? As presented.
On this last page in the book where it says financial statements, it says significant deficiencies identified that are not considered to be material weaknesses.
That would be a control finding if it existed. It would break down into different levels of severity. It should say no.
So it says none reported.
None exist.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Just one more time. So, any budget amendments need to be accomplished before the last day of the year.
As of 12/31, yes.
Okay.
For them to be valid.
Any questions from the directors? We're good? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may make just one statement, as we are looking to move banks, as we were looking to move our offices here to Giddings later this year, we'll need to look for new banks in the area as well. So some of the procedural issues that he brought up, we can address those when we find a new banking solution here in Giddings. But at the time that ACH was created to pay for the new offices, Peggy and I were both there at the bank, but we just didn't get both signatures onto the form to get it done. We'd never done that procedure. We didn't catch it. The bank didn't catch it. But it's something we can address when we transfer our funds over to a local bank here.
Mm-hmm.
And also to that end, those of you who have the new bank here in Giddings, I'll need to talk with you and find banks where we can put our money without conflict. So that may be a little tricky, but we'll get it sorted.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on that agenda item?
Elvis?
Yes.
We need a motion to accept the audit. chapter 36, you have to do.
Okay, all right. We need a motion to accept the audit.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Thank you, Natasha. All right. Item D, committee reports with possible board discussion. No action will be taken. Financial Services Committee, we already went over, actually, in the first agenda item B, we already discussed what the Financial Committee had done. The Financial Committee went over in the itemizations of the Giddings non-construction related expenses. So that's what the committee did, was create that itemized report. So next, on the Governance Committee, let me take that out. So Governance Committee met by Zoom on May 3rd. Attending was myself, Kay Rogers, Michael Smang, April Griffin, Greg Ellis, and James Totten. Greg and the committee discussed the status of the mitigation bill and other proposed related bills. The committee discussed updating the mitigation program application and processes. The committee discussed historic use permit applications, and if that was needed, that should be brought to the management committee. The committee discussed and authorized the creation of an RFQ and RFP templates for future use. So April Griffin will be drafting up templates for RFQs and RFPs, and once that's done, we'll send that off to the board here, and then the staff will begin to start using those templates moving forward. The committee discussed the non-construction related expenses. We also discussed the stakeholder group and the invitations. So the plan is that invitations for the stakeholder group would be sent sometime in early June, and that the first meeting of the stakeholder group would be sometime in July. We do plan to have several categories of stakeholders. We want to make sure that we have all the various constituents represented, and so we are going to be making sure that we have all the various water constituents invited and represented at the stakeholder group. And then the committee planned and discussed the May board agenda. That is it for the Governance Committee. Next up, the Infrastructure Committee. Herb, would you like to give an update on the Giddings office and the status of the office building?
The walls are basically up. There's been a few minor changes. The electrician is in there working now. The plumbing will be started on tomorrow. We had a little change there, but not that major of a change. And they will be working in there tomorrow, roughing in the 2 new bathrooms and that. And the work is progressing. And then if I can ask a question, I see the bill here from Gakey. There was a change order for $1,000. What was that for? Does anybody know? Or
That was the asbestos and mold testing that we had to have done
all
prior
right.
to.
All right.
Yes, sir.
I thought maybe I'd done something I didn't know.
No,
I didn't know.
the big change orders are coming. But
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be that major. And there's extra money. There's some things they haven't spent money on, but we'll see.
Okay. Thank you for that. Education Outreach Committee update.
Yeah, the Education Outreach Committee met on Monday. The committee discussed the outreach education coordinator position with respect to the timeline for hiring, reporting, and as well as advertising. The committee also discussed scheduling water conservation outreach programs. We've identified some programs that TCEQ and Texas Water Development Board has. The targets for these outreach programs would be cities, HOAs, and county subdivisions. Committee also discussed topics for future news articles for the local newspapers with respect to water conservation and items of interest to the district. For example, EPA's water sense, desired future conditions, And if anybody has ideas for topics for a newspaper article, you can relay them to the committee and me. And we'd like input from the board as well as the public. So let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is the Management Committee. I guess I'll provide that update. The Management Committee basically reviewed all the written feedback that was received from the workshop, from the rules workshop, and that was the committee meeting was basically reviewing. Yeah, that was basically it. Reviewing all the written feedback that we received from the workshop. All right, moving on. Item 4E, the General Manager's Report. Mr. Totten.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. The General Manager's report for the meeting May 17th, 2023. During the reporting period from April 1st to April 30th, we had 15 additional wells that were registered or permitted with the district in terms of exempt wells. No pre-existing wells were registered during that period. We conducted 4 water quality tests, engaged 20 wells. Between scheduling and weather, we didn't quite get out in the field as much as we would have liked to. Hopefully we'll close up some of the well gauging that needs to be done here in the next few weeks if it stays dry, including you, Mr. Coach. Drought, according to drought.gov, and I'm a little puzzled by this, but they say the conditions in Lee and Bastrop County have not changed since last month. We are still at 92 or 98% abnormally dry in Bastrop County, and 57% abnormally dry in Lee County, which is exactly what they showed last month. But if you look at their drought maps, both counties are completely out of drought. But their statistics say that we haven't changed. I did check the reporting periods for their statistics, and they update them every Thursday morning, and they basically say they cease to be valid on Tuesday afternoon. So I guess I need to stop checking them Wednesday morning because that may be the period where they're doing updates. But regardless, we've gotten significant rains, and both counties seem to be doing well in terms of drought conditions. GMA 12, once again, has not been active since the last board meeting. We've already touched on the conditions at the new office. The framing for the new walls is in. District staff came up Monday morning to do a walkthrough with the electricians to point out where we needed additional electrical outlets, internet drops, things like that. Additionally, we got to looking at the transition from the paper plans to seeing the building in 3 dimensions, gave us a different perspective on some of those spaces. And at this point, we're looking at removing the inclusion of the stovetop and all that from our design plans, just to maximize the amount of space that we have in the break room in case we need to use that for an executive session or something like that, just to give us a little bit more flexibility. Nobody's planning on cooking lunch in the break room. And having that extra space, if we need to use it for a smaller meeting room, would be more beneficial, we think. There are a few changes that Herb has proposed in terms of where some of the walls are. We'll make those minor changes with Gakey and try and optimize that space as much as we can. We knew going into it that there's a huge difference between a flat drawing with walls that are the width of a pin versus seeing the thing actually framed out. And so some of these changes were to be expected, but overall, it looks really good, and we're excited to see the progress going forward. I did miss the education and outreach meeting that Tom had on Monday, but we are working to finalize the job posting for the education coordinator and get that posted, start bringing in candidates, hopefully. And I think, Tom, you're looking at the end of the summer possibly for having somebody on staff?
Yes.
Okay. And so I think that's a reasonable approach and a reasonable timeline, so we'll work on getting that, meeting that timeline. We're also working with Dr. Vodler as our chosen consultant for the stakeholder process to try and finalize how we want to structure that stakeholder group, how we want to handle a combination of do we want to do invitations and public applications, or how we want to constitute that group so that we can get the best possible feedback regarding the district's rules and come up with some good recommendations for the board to consider next year when we wrap that process up. We are still in the process of finally finishing the processing of the pending permits for the district. We'll likely start scheduling those for hearings, either at special called meetings in late June and early July, or at a regular July board meeting. Just depends on availability and timing. but we are gonna start moving that backlog out and getting that in front of y'all. With regard to upcoming meetings, I normally don't get to announce these, but Region G is meeting on the 31st at the Brazos River Authority offices in Waco. They normally send out the announcements for their meetings 2 or 3 days after we have our board meeting. So I got advance notice this time, so that's when that will be. Region K is scheduled to meet July 12th. That location hasn't been determined yet, but we've got some time, so I'll keep you all in the loop as they do finally get the venue selected for that. At the request of Director Rogers, I'm not happy with how this map turned out. It was kind of an improvisational effort, but we'll continue to refine that and provide you with the locations of those new wells within the district.
It's helpful. to
Yeah,
look
it's
at.
helpful,
Yeah.
yeah.
It works, but I'm not happy with it, so we'll keep refining it. But I wanted to get something to address that request by Director Rogers. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Would you mind expanding on what's involved processing these permit applications and how our backlog is moving and exactly
Yes, sir.
what
So-
kind of work's being done?
So right now, we're basically at the stage where we're going through and modeling the impacts of each of the proposed permits. Once that's done, as we get each one of those done, we'll declare the permit administratively complete and start scheduling it for hearing. As you know, it's been an exceptionally busy 6-9 months now since these permits came in, between rewriting the management plan, I guess twice now, the rules twice now, and everything else that's going on. The staff and consultants have just been stretched thin on these. Now that we're wrapping these things up, we're getting focused back on moving these permits forward. But basically, the initial process, they come in, they're reviewed by staff, they're reviewed by the consultants and legal counsel. We come up with a list of anything that we feel needs to be addressed in the application. We send that back to the applicant. Depending on how fast they get that material back to us, we can take that, see if they've materially addressed all the concerns of, basically if they ticked all the boxes required by the state. And once we've got that, then we'll do the modeling, evaluation of the impacts, and begin putting together a final summary from the board. And at that, that's when we go through the start scheduling hearings and doing all the rest. We do have the new team, and so we've gone slower this time because it's a new team, and I want to make sure that everybody's on board and we're doing things and everybody's comfortable. The process went a little bit faster in the past because Andy and I have been doing that for almost 10 years. So combination of combination of factors just came together to slow us down this time. This will be the last time I anticipate it'll be this slow moving forward on permits. But like I say, it's just how it played out this time.
Thank you.
And there will be a note of that included in the next management compliance report for why these permits were that slow.
Any other questions for Jim?
Also, yes.
All right. With that then, we'll move on to the hydrogeologist report. Mr. Standen.
I had a chance to walk around and talk to a few of you before the meeting. Just want to update you, we're on schedule with all the tasks that we've been assigned. We'd like to present next board meeting where we are and show some of the data we've put together. We're hoping to show you the three-dimensional model in August and our initial framework, and that won't be a final model. But we'll have a lot of the data put into the model and should demonstrate what you can do with this. And so right now we're on schedule. And questions?
When you say you're on schedule, that means the three-dimensional model and the other task?
Other tasks.
And the other tasks as well?
Yeah, we've been busy.
Yeah, you guys have been busy.
Yeah.
Do you know when the next task is? Is it the...
Well, I told you last meeting that I was going to present monitoring wells. Well, I got pulled off in some other projects and I didn't get a chance to finish that up. But I think monitoring wells...
monitoring wells will be the next one?
I would think. I think probably maybe next board meeting.
And for June, what's the topic that you'd like on the agenda for June?
Just a summary. We presented, Vince presented. Initially, we had an initial meeting about all the different tasks and how
Right.
we're going to go through that timeline and what tasks and where we are in the task.
Okay, so it's like a status update on that, a status update on that timeline?
Exactly.
Timeline status update, okay. Any other questions for Mr. Sandin? No? Thank you. Okay, next item is agenda item 4F, the discussion of the Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District legislation, related legislation and/or activities that are occurring that affect or pertain to the district and groundwater. I'll give a quick update. Please keep me honest here. My terminology is not the greatest when it comes to the legal stuff. So the Senate bill, our mitigation bill is Senate Bill 1080. It did pass the Senate like 2 weeks ago, roughly, and then this week it passed the House. Yesterday was the second reading, and today was the third reading. Yesterday it passed unanimously, and today it passed with one no vote. So almost unanimous, except for one no vote. So now the next step is that it goes back to the Senate to reconcile any differences. There is some minor differences between the Senate version and the House version, I believe. And then that should be straightforward, and then it'll go to the governor for the governor's signature. So we're almost at the finish line with respect to the Senate Bill 1080. And I do want to thank Greg Ellis, as mentioned by Director Rogers. I also like to thank Representative Gertis, who did a very excellent job representing our bill this week at the House. And I want to thank the well owners and all the folks that went lobbying the last couple of weeks through the Capitol, handing out flyers and shaking hands. And so thanks to all those folks, all the well owners and that went out and helped us lobby. Thank you. So that's the status. Am I okay with that?
Well, that was great. I would just add that there were 142 yays, so that totally takes over the one nay.
Right, one nay.
And just one piece of context, so the bill as passed now does require us to go through a rulemaking process for the mitigation program. So even if the governor signs the bill next week, we still have to go through a whole rulemaking. So we're not going to be back in the mitigation business at the end of May. We're going to need to go through, develop all the rules, go through the public hearing process and get all that taken care of. So we're at the end of the road, but we've got another road that we're going to have to take now once this is all, once it's done at the Capitol. So
we need to update rules, processes.
yes, sir. All that
And
has to
yeah,
go through the
and
rulemaking.
we started updating some of the applications, for example.
Yes, but we'll need actual rules that are going to be in our, incorporated into the district rules.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot more. When we did this last time, we did not have rules
Right.
incorporated, so it was done through a board action. I'm just saying we have a process ahead of us.
We have
Yeah,
to go through the notice and comment and rulemaking
and
process.
rulemaking. We'll have to have a rule hearing. We'll have to have a hearing.
Yes.
So you can't take applications before you get the rules made.
It would probably be best
Yeah.
not to.
Yeah,
Right.
because you don't know what your application's going to
Right.
say.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
The application should
Match the rules. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Once we
Like
get the
a pro
rules, then the
forma, like an
application.
exhibit, okay.
So
Okay.
this would go into the category of mitigation rules.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Because the bill does say by rule, right? Okay.
I don't believe that was originally in there. I think it was added during the sausage making process.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we will have to go through that process. It'll add a month or two onto the activities, but we'll get it done.
Yeah. I remember adding that. Okay.
There was a good article in the Texas Tribune about that. Very good. Right away after the vote.
That's right. Okay. Any other comment, discussion on that item? If not, we'll move forward. G, agenda item G, consideration of future agenda items. Is there anyone with any ideas for future agenda items? Nope. Okay. Then we'll move on to item H. Discussion, consideration, and possible action related to written feedback received by the district from the rules workshop and the upcoming hearing for the proposed rules. I do have one announcement to start with. I do want to acknowledge and thank the folks who provided feedback from the rules workshop. Let me read them off. We've received feedback at the rules workshop, subsequent to the rules workshop, from Andy Weir, from Thomas Turfgrass, in particular Seth Thomas, Emery Thomas, and their law firm Eichelbaum and Wardell. I hope I've got that right. We also received comments back from Recharge, from Manville WSC, LCRA, Gatehouse Water, Aqua WSC, and lastly, Conservation Equity Management. So those were the 8 entities that provided feedback from, and like to acknowledge that and thank them for their feedback. The next 3 items on the agenda are for executive session. So let me read that off. We'll be entering executive session for 3 items. A, the executive session of the board pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, or any closed session permitted by law, to consult with its attorneys and seek advice regarding Gatehouse Water, LLC, v. Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District. Also B, executive session of the board pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, or any closed session permitted by law, to consult with its attorneys and seek advice regarding LCRA versus Lost Pines Groundwater Conservation District. And K, Director Rogers and I will be recused for that item. And then executive session C, executive session of the board pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, or any closed session permitted by law, to consult with its attorneys and seek advice regarding item 4H above, which is the discussion, consideration, and possible action related to written feedback received by the district from the rules workshop.
That's right. I do recommend that we take up the LCRA's item first, so we don't have to kick you guys out.
Okay,
Okay.
we'll just stay in here and talk.
So I will adjourn temporarily the meeting here at 7:43 p.m. And the board will enter into executive session. And Kay and I will await your...
I have something to talk to you about.
Okay. So, with that, thank you.
You know you drank it all. I saw you pour the last
Just
of
like
it.
a little espresso.
Okay, thank you all. We'll reconvene the meeting at 8:44 p.m. No action was taken in executive session. So the next item, I just want to make sure any further discussion on item H regarding the rules? If not, we'll move to item I.
I have a motion I'd like to make concerning item I. I'd like to make a motion to delegate approval authority on settlement documents to the majority of the negotiations committee and authorize the president to execute settlement documents if so approved by the negotiations committee.
There are a few locations.
Okay, I hear a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Hearing a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next item up on the agenda is item J, the discussion at the possible action regarding LCRA, of which Kay, Director Rogers, and I are recused. So with that, I'll pass that item J.
I'd like to make a motion on item J. I'd like to make the motion to accept the attorney's recommendation and direct her to proceed as recommended.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Item K, discussion, consideration, and possible action on district board meeting calendar. I'd like to announce that we'll have a public rules hearing on June 21st at 6 p.m. So that'll be on June 21st, 6 p.m. We'll have a public rules hearing on the updates of the public rules based upon the updates from the workshop. That'll be on June 21st at 6 p.m. Anything else on item K?
You don't know where that's going to be, is that correct?
That's correct. So that's item L. So we'll move on to item L, the date and location of the next meeting. The date is June 21st is the next board meeting. It'll be at 7 p.m. It'll be at the same location as the public hearing, but we're not quite 100% sure on the location yet.
We got off of our rotation. This would have normally been an Elgin meeting, so we just have to verify that either Elgin chambers are available. If not, we'll go with it. But it'll
Right.
be in Bastrop County.
So it'll be in Bastrop County, and the location will either be in Elgin, or it could be at the Blue Bonnet headquarters on Electric Avenue, off of Highway 21. But in either case, the regular board meeting will be on June 21st, Wednesday, at 7 p.m. And that will be preceded by the public hearing on the rules at 6 p.m. Same location. Again, it'll be either Elgin, our normal Elgin location, or it may be at the Blue Bonnet headquarters on Electric Avenue. With that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting then at 8:47 p.m. The meeting is adjourned for tonight. Thank you all.